Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host, AR the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, we're going to talk about the social media censorship continues and why we didn't earn a Bill of Rights at this point in history. So basically, went to bed last night, / this morning, and woke up here a little while ago. Went on Twitter to, just check out what's going on for the day and stuff like that, and found out that the network's account has either been temporarily or permanently suspended. I'm not sure which at this point. I think it's permanent, which is absolute fucking bullshit, dude. And what's even more fucked up is they didn't even tell me in the Twitter file or whatever that why it was suspended or whatever the case be. And then I'm like, okay, let me go see if they actually sent me like an email or something here. And so I went to my email, and sure enough, they did send me an email about 9:30ish this morning or so, telling me that basically, oh yeah, these couple tweets that you put out like 3 to 6 months ago, which I'm pretty sure it was more like 6 months ago, honestly, or even longer than that for that matter. It might have been the end of last year for that matter. That they somehow violated their fucking BS terms of service on quote unquote violent speech, and specifically. I'm going to go do two things actually right now. So, yeah, I went on to Twitter and literally found my account in this status right here. Account is suspended. After careful review, we determine your account has broken Twitter rules. Your account is permanently in read-only mode, which means you cannot tweet, retweet, or like comments. Won't be able to create new accounts if you think this is wrong. Submit an appeal. I'm gonna do that obviously at some point. I'm just debating about like how exactly do I go about it to potentially get it unsuspended is what it is. And I kind of already submitted like one appeal to him of like, because they obviously didn't say like what it was on the account there, and I'm like, why is my account even suspended? This is ridiculous. And then yeah, the actual one that was sent to my email this morning, which was grab my email here, which said your account, Patriot Ed, was suspended for violating Twitter rules, specifically violating rules against, quote, violent speech. You may not threaten, incite, glorify, or express a desire for harm or violence. Okay, so that's absolute bullshit because Sowell, Asa Hutchinson, and then Eric Sowell again was the 4 tweets that they hit me with there. So, first and foremost, I'm not sitting there inciting, glorifying, etc. anything. What I'm specifically stating is a fucking fact. And that fact is that yes, Eric Sowell, a man who, number one, has banged fucking foreign enemies of this country while being a sitting congressman, who literally called for nuking gun owners like 4 or 5 years ago now, back in like 2018, 2019, etc. A man who has actively committed high treason several different times. Yes, he should be given the death penalty in this state, or not in the state, in this country. He should be given a federal death penalty, is what it is. He should be on death row right now, federally, for the crimes he committed, which is basically exactly what that one tweet said. It was specifically, what is it here now? I said, why the fuck is Eric Sowell still in Congress or walking free when he should be in federal prison awaiting death penalty for high treason? And that was actually, there was actually a link to that. I think it was a Breitbart article, him talking some shit again about Americans and gun ownership and stuff like that. That's what it was. And then the other ones were, we'd support Sowell getting a federal death penalty for high treason, for banging spies and threatening nuke gun owners. So, of course, that would be considered probably inciting violence, I'm guessing, on that one. And this one was by Asa Hutchinson. I think, by the way, the first two were from like legitimately either January, February this year or the end of last year. So it'd be like November, December of 2022. So we're talking about stuff that's been on that site for anywhere from like 6 to 8 months now. And they haven't had a problem with it until now, which really does beg the question if there wasn't some algorithm update within their system then. Because that's the thing. I don't believe that it was some person or some group or whatever going through my Twitter history and stuff like that and being like, oh, how can we get this account suspended? You know, and like a bunch of people just doing whatever there. I almost guarantee it was exactly what they did with Alex Jones several years back now, which was you had Zuckerberg. At the time, it was Jack Dorsey running Twitter and a bunch of the other ones and stuff like that. Susan Wojcicki was running YouTube here, et cetera, et cetera. And you had them meet over the weekend on like a Friday or Saturday is what it was, update all their terms of services at the same time or whatever. Because you might as well call that colluding, by the way, because that's exactly what it is in the day. So it's basically big tech collusion that all came together to update the TOS or whatever. And then literally it was that Monday morning or whatever, they updated the services and did like a new terms of service is what it was. That then they claimed Alex Jones violated that stuff. And they all went after him within like a 12-hour span to try to deplatform his ass off every site is what it was. And I feel like this is kind of what happened here with me is you had stuff that was fine on their site for the past, almost a year in some cases. And yet suddenly on a Tuesday, it suddenly somehow starts to violate your terms of service. Doesn't make any sense unless you add in the fact that it was AI or algorithm updating. And then it was basically a robot essentially going around and being like, oh, let us go look for keyword searches. And I guarantee what it is it's probably the exact same bullshit we've seen with Twitter before in the past, where you had them trying to cuck for presidential candidates and stuff like that, or them trying to, fuck with the election cycles and stuff like that. And I'm guessing the fact that they hit one with Asa, just the word Asa in it, which would obviously be referencing Asa Hutchinson is what it is, who, by the way, is one of at least, I think 10 ex-governors right now, and overall about 20 to 25 governors that were sitting governors in 2020 that should have all been brought up on various criminal charges for the various stuff they did with lockdowns. Every single one of them committed multiple atrocities and multiple felonies that are actual death penalty offenses is what it is. And you have these people that are still walking free to this day, which is absolutely ridiculous entirely. And even that one with Asa there, I specifically said Asa should have been given the death penalty for high crimes against humanity for the shitty pool in Arkansas in 2021 and 2020. And that was, I think that one was more like about a week or two ago. And then the other one, the last one, was about Sowell again that said, never forget the fuck knuckle Eric Sowell talked about nuking gun owners in the past 5 years. Well, fucking Chinese spies. Why is he not in federal prison awaiting death penalty for high treason? So yeah, so somehow that's considered like incitement, glorification, expression of harm / violence and violent speech, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous, dude. So speaking the truth of what should be done to actual traitors to this country is apparently violent speech, according to Twitter. But yet, that site allows for porn of all kinds on it to remain, whether it be straight, gay, trans, whatever the case be. And they also suspend those accounts. Yet you have multiple Antifa members on that site who have evaded Twitter's rules and are still on that site to this day. Yet you have BLM terrorism being allowed to flourish all over that site. Yet you have black supremacists being allowed to flourish all over that site and literally call for the death of white people and stuff like that. And they're not suspended. But yet, oh my God, talk about what should be done to an actual criminal politician. And suddenly, months later, it's now a fucking problem. That's what's insane to me about this whole thing. Like, it would be, and this is another thing too, by the way, it would be one thing if the day that I was trying to post that stuff, if it's like as I'm hitting like tweet or whatever the case be, it's like, oh, are you sure you want to tweet this? This may violate our rules on blah, 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 blah. Like, that would be one thing. Obviously, that would be even creepier because it would actually be like them like knowing exactly like algorithm strokes and stuff like that of exactly what you're saying, essentially, before you're saying it is what it would be. And in that case, it would be like some 1984 level shit. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, but if that had been a thing, though, would I have still posted that stuff? And the answer is obviously no. Like, if I knew it could lead to a suspension or whatever the case be, obviously I wouldn't have. I do find it very interesting, though, like I said, that this all occurred on a Tuesday morning when you literally have all these sites that will update terms of service or update various things, whatever the case be, on usually a Monday. And that's the biggest problem too, by the way. And this is exactly what I've talked about during the Bill of Rights and several times in this channel before, and I'll talk about it again right now. To sit there and say that you violated our terms of service, yet meanwhile, all these sites continuously update their terms of service to where something that you said a week ago or a month ago or a year ago now suddenly violates their shit. That's the fucking problem. And I believe that that's exactly what we're seeing here right now. Because even looking into it, it was back in February of this year is when you had apparently Musk or whoever then, like the head people there, or whatever it was, basically saying like, oh yeah, you know, violations of like the quote unquote like violent speech stuff, whatever the case be, or like permanent suspensions, which probably was gonna happen to me now in this one, which is absolute bullshit entirely, and it really does piss me the fuck off, dude. And if you think Ohio Patriot Education Network is not gonna be on Twitter after this, you're fucking kidding yourselves, because fuck their bullshit things, dude. I'm 100%. If I have to make a new account, I'll make a new fucking account. And if they want to sit there and shit on that one too or whatever, fuck them, you know. Then I'll find some fucking alternative like Gap or something like that to go to, is what it is. Because it's absolutely ridiculous, dude, to sit there and shit talk people, or to sit there and suspend accounts for stuff that was said months to years ago, is what it was. And my thing is, okay, if it's really that fucking problematic or whatever, dude, y'all have the ability as the fucking admins of the site. You could just delete the fucking tweet someplace. You know? Like, that's the big thing. Like, they have that power. We've seen it before, for God's sakes. Hell, it's been outed since the 2020 elections that they were doing that kind of shit. They were suppressing people's stuff. They were literally fucking, like, shadow banning people. They were doing all kinds of shady shit. And honestly, the fact that Twitter still exists in any capacity where it's not user fucking owned at this point is kind of the problem, honestly, right now. And that's what I'm saying. Like, so to sit there and be like, oh, well, you violated this thing, that from a fucking, like, small set of tweets that were literally months old. And I think in the case of ASA's, it was either weeks old, or again, it was still months old at that point. Because I'm not sure exactly when I did that one. I think that particular one was from, like, several months ago as well. It was from, like, March or April or something of this year. So you're talking about, like, 3 to 4 months ago for that one. And the other ones are, like, anywhere from, like, 6 to 9 months old, basically, at least. And yet somehow they weren't a problem for all that time, but yet now suddenly, after a weekend, and then a Monday morning, most likely updating, now suddenly on a Tuesday morning, they become a fucking issue. It's bullshit, dude, entirely. It's absolutely fucking garbage entirely. If they're going to suspend me, dude, suspend me for actually threatening people. You know? Don't give me some bullshit suspension for fucking being like, oh, this is what should happen because this person is a fucking actual federal criminal, is what it is. Speaking the fucking truth is not violent speech. Speaking the fucking truth of what should be done to traitors to this country is not inciting violence, dude. It's literally saying what should be the fucking end game for a traitor to this fucking nation. Which is exactly what Eric Sowell is. Which is exactly what Ace Hutchinson's is. Which is exactly what so many fucking politicians in this country are. They are traitors to this nation. They are career criminals. They have committed so many fucking atrocities against American people, and yet we're allowing them to get away with it every single day. And that's what I'm saying. And to sit there and suspend somebody for that shit, it's fucking ridiculous, dude. I do find it very interesting, too, by the way, when you look at my last little set of tweets there and stuff that led to this whole thing. It was basically the last few tweets I put out this morning, actually, before that account was suspended, which was like last night into this morning is what it was, so it was like 2, 3 a.m., whatever this morning. A lot of them were talking about John Legend being a pedophile because he's here in Ohio today for some bullshit concert against Issue 1. And I find it very suspicious that suddenly, a few hours, like legitimately maybe 6 hours to 7 hours or so, after I'm calling out this dude's crimes against fucking children, that now suddenly the network's account gets suspended. Very fucking fishy, dude. Very suspicious entirely. It really does piss me off, like I said. And then for them to be there like, oh, well, look at these things we pulled up by an algorithm search is what it was. And by their own logic, by the way, like if they were going to do that shit or whatever, dude, like there should have been way more than that, bro. Honestly. Should have been way more than that, dude. Like, if that be the case, then every single time I ever mention the words death penalty, there probably should have been a fucking tweet there. You know? And that's what's even more fucked up, right? So if you're talking about, like, because there's been many times I've used the account there on Twitter to be like, yeah, you know, this is why Ohio needs to have, you know, firing squad to our state death penalty is what it is. And it was basically referencing, like, some fucking child murderer or something like that, or some child rapist and stuff like that. But yet that didn't apparently violate the fucking rules. But yet, oh my god, saying that, you know, an actual fucking criminal congressman or a criminal fucking ex-governor that's trying to run for presidency now that's never got a fucking chance in the actual Republican primary is now fucking violating their rules weeks to months to almost a year later is what it is. Again, makes absolutely no sense to me, dude, at all. It's next level bullshit is what it is, dude. Honestly, I'll tell you what it feels like. It feels like, truthfully, the same shit we've seen in 2020. It feels like Twitter banning accounts because they're trying to actively fuck people over and because they want to basically do some more shady shit come 2024 is what it is. Yeah, needless to say, it's a bunch of crap, dude. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna wait. Honestly, I'm not gonna do anything else today for right now. I'm gonna. I know Honda's done a bunch of stuff on YouTube where he's been able to do stuff that allowed for like channel strikes to be gotten away with, and I'm wondering if there's something else like that they could do with like Twitter and stuff for an appeal, and maybe just use that particular like copy and paste document kind of thing or whatever. Then, so I don't know. It fucking sucks, dude. It really does. It's just absolutely insanity, is what it is. Again, this goes back to something I've said on this channel before, by the way, in these grandstands. Now I understand, and I have understood for some time, exactly why when I look at, you know, our Constitution and how our founding fathers actually wrote the Constitution down, why they wrote freedom of speech and the press and religion, all that stuff like that is, you know, the First Amendment, and then wrote the Second Amendment as the right to keep and bear arms against tyrannical government and stuff like that. So I totally get it, man. I totally get it, because once your speech is suppressed, once your speech is censored, you know, what else do you really have? You have the right to keep and bear arms is what it is, and you have the right to make sure that your speech is never censored, etc. there. So just to be clear on that one, not inciting violence, not trying to incite violence, anything like that. Just simply stating a fact is what it is. I totally get why our founding fathers wrote what they wrote. And you could also interchange Second and First Amendments too, by the way. You could have had the right to keep and bear arms as the First Amendment and had everything else as the Second Amendment. But I think they got it right. That was what it was, because you wanted to have, you know, your right to say stuff and your right to be able to do whatever there without having government, you know, on your neck. And in this case, I'm going to say it like it is, dude. Whether it be Twitter, whether it be Facebook, whether it be YouTube here, whatever the case be, these are all definitely government contracted companies, you know. And I've said it before, actually, when you look at, and actually I think it was Sticks and Hammer said it before, how you should have all these be public entities, like basically the phone company essentially is what it would be, because it's obviously, we have modern day town square. Here's what it is, you know. You used to have like an actual town square where you could go, you know, air grievances and shit like that. Now you have the internet being your modern day town square. And the big thing there is, when you look at what we're seeing here as well, and you understand that they're essentially like violating your ability to speak over some bullshit, It's fucking ridiculous, dude. Now, it's like, here's the one thing too, by the way. There is a huge difference between what I said about, Sowell and Hutchinson and stuff like that, because obviously they are, traitors to this country. They obviously are criminals. They obviously should be arrested and brought up on charges, what it is. The big difference there is I'm not fucking Antifa or BLM doing direct actions and doing direct terrorism on the streets of this country or at people's homes, or whether it be those assholes in like Jane's Revenge or fucking, what was it? Ruth Sennis, I think, is another one of them ones that were doing like attacks on pregnancy centers all across this country. No, I'm not going out and doing that kind of shit, dude. I'm specifically stating a fact. And the fact of the matter is you have two men in that case. One is a Democrat, one is a fucking rhino-ass Republican, who have both committed serious atrocities against this country that fall under the Nuremberg Code that, yes, should see them given a federal death penalty. And that's all I'm stating. That was what I'm fucking stating in those tweets, dude. Seriously. And that's the problem with Twitter, by the way, when it only has like X amount of characters and stuff. So you got to like basically down character shit. So maybe you can't write out the whole thing you're talking about there. But that's the entire point of the matter. Like I said, I don't believe it was a human being that actually looked over those tweets and were like, oh yeah, this totally violates our fucking rules. No, it was some fucking bot. It was some, AI. It was some kind of algorithm, whatever the case be, that they updated recently. That was probably going through millions of fucking tweets all over the site, my guess, honestly. And just looking for specific keywords that they put into the fucking algorithm search is my guess. And it just happened to hit a few of mine is what it was, dude. And it was probably something where it's like, oh, like let's like update our searches here for any politician's name or whatever the case be. And oh, if somebody says something that does that, like maybe like the word death or death penalty or whatever the case be, like now all of a sudden let's suspend their account and stuff. I guarantee that's fucking what it was, dude. And all that does, honestly, all that kind of shit does is open up Twitter and Elon Musk specifically to massive lawsuits like that, dude. Because you're censoring freedom of speech, dude. You're censoring people's ability to call out criminality in this country. And all you're doing is you're putting someone in a position then to where they either A, have to evade your bullshit by creating a new account now or whatever the case be, that you're probably going to try to suspend later on, is my guess anyway. Or B, you're putting them in a position where they're either going to have to sue the shit out of you or take it on the fucking chin, find an alternative platform to actually air their grievances against tyrannical government. And eventually, what it does is it, again, leads us towards this path that I've been saying for the last year or so, which is that we are going to have a balkanization in this country. We're going to have a second American Civil War in this nation. That's exactly what this shit leads to, honestly. It leads to people seeing that they're being suspended, seeing that they're being censored by social media sites, and thinking to themselves in some cases, not in my case, obviously, but like in some cases, I guarantee there's people out there that are like that, dude. They're going to be like, oh, I got nothing left to lose now. And it's like, that's exactly what it is, dude. You're putting someone into a mindset where it's like, oh, well, there's one more thing that I have that's gone now, There's one more reason why I have nothing left to lose anymore. And that's all it does, dude. It like ingrains shit like that into people's heads. So it's just fucked up, man. It really is. Not cool, bro. Not cool at all. And like I said, it would have been one thing entirely if this shit had happened 6 months, a year ago, whenever the fuck it was, and I actually posted that one tweet, is what it was. Like the day it happened or the day after it happened or whatever the case be. But the fact that I said, like, it's been sitting on that site for like 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is now. And there was no problems until this morning. So it really is fucking fishy, dude. It's really fishy shit, honestly, because it's like, okay, you're fine for, from November, December of last year to now or whatever it was, or January of this year to now is what it was. Like I said, 6 to 9 months someplace in there. And now all of a sudden, it goes from fine, account suspended. Like, that's exactly what it is at the end of the day, dude. And I've seen this, by the way, I've had the same shit happen to me on Facebook before, where I had posted something on that site. It was fine. Now you have a 7-day suspension on your account or whatever the case be. or have a 7-day Facebook jail or whatever it was. And then, okay, I'm fighting this shit. I'm doing what I need to do there, whatever the case be. I took it on the chin or whatever for that 7-day suspension, even though it's bullshit, obviously, because it wouldn't allow the appeal to go through or whatever it was there. And then it was, continuing on a little bit of time. Oh, it turns out, months down the road, oh, this is perfectly fine. You actually didn't violate our rules or anything like that. You didn't violate terms of service at all or whatever the case be. So they, reinstated that fucking particular post is what it was. And then it's all fine. 4 months after that, oh, now you have a 30-day suspension with the same fucking thing. That's what these fuckers did to me, by the way, on Facebook. So I went from having 0 fucking suspensions on that site at all a couple years ago to one time I got like the 1-day suspension, and then I forget exactly how it goes. It's like 1 day, and then I think it's like 3 days, and then it's like a week, and then it's like a month, and then it's continuously a month after that, which is absolute bullshit, by the way, entirely. It's completely unconstitutional, and it's exactly why Zuckerberg and company need to be fucking sued into the ground by everybody at this point, and why the user base needs to own that site, honestly, is what it is. The same thing with most social media sites at this point, why they need to become actual public entities, just like the phone company is what it is, and public domains like that. Because you shouldn't be allowed to censor people's freedom of speech is what it is. You should not be allowed to suspend people's accounts for shit. Like, that's the one thing. It would be one thing if it was, like, heinous. Like, that's the one thing I get, right? And that's the big problem right here. And this is the big issue when it comes to the whole, like, broad fucking spectrum of what Twitter considers to be violent speech and stuff like that. Because even going back to what it was saying there about that, let me grab it up again real quick here. Go back into my email now to read what that actually said now for how it was, and stuff. Okay, so yeah, let me see here now. So yeah, it says may not threaten, incite, glorify, or express a desire for harm or violence. Okay, that's the problem though. That is so broad brush, dude. Number one, and number two, I'm not glorifying harm or violence. I'm not glorifying, I'm not inciting, I'm not threatening harm or violence. Or expressing a desire for that matter. What I'm specifically stating is a fucking fact, dude. And the fact of the matter is, so well as a traitor of this country, so is Asa. The actual crimes that they have committed, legitimately, federal crimes, state crimes, etc., all felony charges, by the way, all very heinous shit, should see them arrested, most likely by the FBI or some other 3-letter agency for that matter, given their day in court, brought up on the charges of crimes against humanity, of all kinds of other stuff, high treason, etc. And when you look into what the actual things for crimes against humanity and high treason are for the actual, legitimate fucking sentences for both of those things, the actual sentence is the fucking death penalty, legitimately. It's the exact same thing with deprivation of circle of law. There's multiple charges for that. You can have as little as 1 year and 1 day in jail, or 10 years in jail. And both of those first two, by the way, if you get either one of those sentences, you can never hold elected office again because you're depriving people of their rights. Is what it is. As a politician, is what it would be then. Third one is life imprisonment, and depending on severity of the crime, if they do like something super, super heinous, the fourth one is actual death penalty. So it's like, dude, all I'm stating is a fucking fact in that matter. And the fact of the matter is, yes, what these people have done is death penalty qualification sentencing. So how the fuck is me saying the truth expressing or desiring or glorifying fucking violence? No, it's not. It's not, dude. That's the entire point. It's bullshit entirely. It's absolute fucking trash is what it is, dude. It's literally fucking violations of the First Amendment. Being like, oh, you wish harm on these people. No. I wish that we had a country that had a 1-tier justice system in it that wasn't a 2 or 3-tier justice system where if you were a sitting politician or a fucking have a shitload of fucking money as a, actor, rapper, fucking musician, whatever the case be, that you can literally get away with anything, including child molestation and mass murder at this point. Because that's what the matter of fact is, dude. You look at 2020, look at 2021, look at 2022, look at 2023. Look at how much these people have done to American citizens in that time period. And yet most of them are still sitting politicians right now. Most of them are still sitting, quote unquote, civil servants right now, even though they shouldn't be. You have dozens of governors across this country right now that are still sitting in office after 2020 when they should all be in their own state prisons right now on death row for the crimes they've committed, for crimes against humanity at that point. The same thing with AGs, the same thing with Secretary of States, the same thing with a lot of people in general assemblies and stuff like that. You know? Like, that's just a fact of the matter. That's not inciting violence. It's not glorifying violence. It's not fucking doing anything. That's not wishing harm on people. That's stating a fact. And it's like, if you're going to suspend people for that, if you're going to suspend accounts for that, it's fucking ridiculous, dude. And what's even worse is, like I said, it would be one thing entirely if it had been a human being doing this shit, but it wasn't. I guarantee it wasn't. Because if it was, it would not have taken them this long. It would have been way longer than that. I guarantee what it was is, like I said earlier, you had some kind of algorithm being put in place today, or last night, or whatever it was, maybe over the weekend for all we know. And it just happened to take this long to go through like the entirety of the site or whatever the case be, and just happened to hit my fucking account is what it was then in that search results, where they put in like certain fucking terms of like, oh, if any account says this thing, we can suspend them now or whatever the case be. And that's exactly what it was. It was putting in, most likely my guess is, honestly, with the algorithm search, it was probably every federal politician, anybody currently running in either political primary for the presidency, whether it be Democrat or Republican, and most likely, I don't even think it'd be state people at that point. I think it'd probably just be other ones is what it would be. You would have, I'm trying to think what I'm saying now. Yeah, most likely it would be something where you have, shit, I'm trying to remember what I'm saying now. My mind is completely blanked out right now. Oh, yeah, algorithm searches. Yeah, so I'm guessing it was most likely something where it was like I said, probably every sitting congressman, every sitting senator, Biden, Kamala, etc. there. And then it was all the, like people like probably RFK Jr., and then like all the Republican primaries is what it was then. Whether it be Asa Hutchinson, Chris Christie, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, whatever the case be, Vivek Ramaswamy, people like that, obviously. Mike Pence even probably was on that list, would be my guess for like algorithm searches and shit. May or may not have been Trump, honestly, on that one. And that's what's fucked up, though, right? Like, you have people being censored over, like I said, months old stuff, almost a year old shit in most cases. I think actually one of those tweets that they suspended me for there may have actually been over a year ago, because it may have been like around this time last year, or maybe like August of last year. So it's like roughly 11, 12 months ago, basically. And it was fine then. Like I said, it was fine then. And then, like I said, with the other ones, it's like probably like 6, 8 months ago or so, give or take. And again, they were fine then. They were fine up till yesterday. And now all of a sudden today, it's like, oh no, sorry, you're gone. Like, just the censorship escalation is fucking ridiculous, dude. And like I said, I honestly wouldn't be surprised. And it's like, here's the thing too right now, right? If you had a dual algorithm search on my account on Twitter right now, on the High Page Education Network Twitter account there, you would basically have two things it would have found. It would have found stuff like that, and it would have found other things that were basically supporting, first of all, Second Amendment legislation that was pro-2A, being against Moms Demand Action, being against all the anti-gun people and stuff like that. And then it would have been obviously doing 2A advocacy on there as well. And you would have had, I'm trying to think what else I posted recently on there. Then it would have been a bunch of like retweets of like various like cat accounts and stuff like that. Like various cats doing cat shit is what it is, man. So, you know, just being cute little cats or kittens or whatever it was there, or dogs or whatever. Then, like that's like half my fucking tweets were actually. It was a bunch of retweets like that, dude. And then the other stuff was basically just political stuff, or like most recently it was a bunch of stuff on like yes on issue 1, and like this is why we need to have yes on issue 1 and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's a bunch of shit entirely, man, and I'm so fucking sick and tired of it. Like I said, it's nothing more than a violation of freedom of speech at this point, because you're suspending an account for speaking a factual matter versus multiple accounts run by Antifa and BLM terrorists that are actually calling for direct violence is what it is, dude. Because that's the big difference right there, right? Like, if you want to get technical about it, like, yeah, technically saying that this person should be brought with death penalty charges could be like an indirect call for violence or whatever, which, again, you're stretching shit at that point. Or you might just be saying that, hey, what they've done is that criminal charge, that's what should be done to them. You know, actual fact of the matter charges is what it is, dude. Versus, you know, like I said, Antifa or BLM or Jane's Revenge or Ruth Sent Us or any of these other fucking leftist orgs that are all a bunch of hate groups and shit like that, dude, a bunch of terrorist organizations who are sitting there being like, on May 14th, 2021, we need to go do this direct action on this place. That's what these fuckers called for, by the way, a bunch of times. And it wasn't, and by the way, all that shit like that, dude, under Jack Dorsey's watch, by the way, and all the fucking ex-executives there at Twitter, and all the ex-fired employees that were there at the time that were doing stuff, and also colluding for 2020 presidency and stuff like that, dude. All these motherfuckers back then, in 2019, 2020, 2018, 2021, 2022, however long it was till Elon Musk took over there is what it was, about a year or so ago. You had every single one of these people being perfectly accepting of Antifa doing calls for direct terrorist attacks that directly violated their terms of service at the time, by the way, allowing these accounts to be allowed on the site during that time period. And then as soon as Elon Musk took over within a month or two, then they introduced some stuff where they actually were taking down these accounts. And that's, I think, where the problem lies right there. Because instead of actually doing it, you know, the right way, which is using a mix of maybe like an algorithm search and then also like human fucking verification on it is what it would be then. What they're doing is they're doing algorithm only searches is what it is. And I guarantee that's where we here at the network got hit is what it was, dude. It was them doing probably most likely a new algorithm search in the last couple days here, and it just happened to hit our account for those fucking like 4 set of tweets that they posted there is what it was. Which, like I said, the one about Asa, I think, is over, it's at least a few weeks old, if not a few months old, actually. I can't remember when that was fucking posted now. It's been a while. And then, obviously, like I said, the ones about Sowell were upwards of sometime last year, potentially. And yet they were fine until today. They were fine until this morning at 9:36 a.m. So, yeah, really fucked up in general, dude. And it's just so infuriating is what it is, man. And like I said, if they really found fault with that, dude, okay, here's a wild idea. Give somebody a fucking warning. And be like even like YouTube, for God's sakes, dude. Like, you have like a 4th thing there. You got warning, strike, permanent account ban, basically. Now, granted, what's actually fucking bullshit about YouTube actually is that once you get that warning or whatever for the first go around now, and it's gone, you can never get that warning again, even if you had like a clean account for like 2 to 3 years or longer is what it is. Which I think is kind of bullshit, because I feel like, honestly, if you haven't done anything in like X amount of time or whatever, then that would quote unquote violate their shit is what it is. Like, that warning should actually be reinstated after like an 18-month thing or whatever then, of like no violations or something. And I feel like it should be the same kind of thing with Twitter, honestly, at that point, dude. Like, if nothing else, be like, yeah, there's certain things that should be like permanent suspension, obviously, like what I said with the Antifa doing direct action stuff, or whatever the case be, or any of these other, you know, accounts calling for, you know, various violence on like X, Y, and Z days is what it is. Versus, someone like me that's like, oh, we didn't even realize that was like, are you kidding me, dude? Do you really think I actually read your fucking terms of service, Twitter? Hell no, I don't. Nobody fucking does, dude. And that's the problem. You can put all, and that's really the issue, is that you have, first of all, that these sites are even allowed to have a fucking terms of service is absolute bullshit entirely, because of the fact that it's a direct violation, motherfuckers, of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, freedom of speech, bitch. And that's the entire point. You are directly violating the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution by even allowing these fucking sites to put in these BS terms of service that, by the way, are ever changing. They constantly change them, dude. It's every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, whatever it is there. Some time period in there is when they're all changed up every time. And like I said, it's exactly what happened to Alex Jones years ago. You had him have all kinds of fucking accounts on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, etc. And then it was that weekend, you had Dorsey, Zuckerberg, Wojcicki, etc. all come together in some Silicon Valley fucking backdoor meeting. And they're like, how can we deal with this guy? And they all updated the terms of service that Monday morning. And within 12 hours, Alex Jones was deplatformed out of everything, is what it was. And that's the problem right there, dude. You are trying to 1984 unperson people. And you wonder why people get pissed off, dude. You wonder why people then think about it in their own heads and be like, well, do I really have anything left to lose now? Is it worth it to be the first person that kicks off the Second American Civil War in this country? Obviously, just to be clear, I'm not saying I'm going to do that, obviously. What I'm specifically stating is it's like, yeah, I guarantee there's people out there that are thinking that, though. Maybe have had their accounts suspended on Twitter or YouTube or whatever the case be, and are like, hey, that was my last bastion of fucking the ability to actually have my piece and say my piece is what it was. Now that I have nothing, like, what's the point anymore? And I think that's what it is, honestly. And that's the sad part, dude. Nobody realizes is you have individuals that are that, close to the edge is what it is. And I think, unfortunately, it will be one of those people that ends up having something like that happen. And they will be the person that starts to kick something off. And maybe they won't kick it off directly. Maybe it'll be like an indirect kickoff eventually. But yeah, if you have enough of those kind of people or whatever, that would be the quote unquote like lone wolf types and stuff like that. Eventually you would see somebody decide like, oh, hey, everybody over here in this group that I'm part of or whatever, like maybe we should actually do this the right way. And then all of a sudden it's like a couple days, a couple weeks down the road or whatever the case be, then you actually have, real, actual revolts going on then is what it would be. But that's the big thing. I think, honestly, when it's all said and done, the way that the Second American Civil War will happen in this country, it'll very much be what we're seeing right now. It'll be a continuation of the culture war. It'll be a continuation of social media censorship like crazy. And it'll be people eventually saying, fuck it, I got nothing left to lose. We're on this alternate site now or whatever, talking with each other. And they eventually create something is what it is. And it's like small scale revolts basically is what will happen. And I think eventually it'll lead to large scale revolts then, because you'll see other people being like, hey, like that'll basically be the organic part of it. You'll have you'll have the small groups that'll be out there doing whatever then. And then you'll have like the larger groups being like, you know what? Why are we doing anything? Why aren't we doing something too as well, man? Like, why are we allowing tyranny to reign in this country again? Like, why are we allowing these people who are obviously unelected in many cases or obviously cheated their way back into office in many cases? Like, why are we allowing them to remain in power is what it is. And that's eventually where you're going to see the, what turns from a potential civil war into an actual revolution in this country. Because that's the one big thing people don't realize. Not all revolutions start and end as revolutions. Some of them actually start as civil wars and become revolutions over time. The big difference is that if you start something as a revolution, it's going to start and end as that. It can never become a civil war at some point during that. It's always going to be a revolution from start to finish versus, some kind of civil war against like, another political side or whatever the case be that would eventually lead to everybody that still is around at the time after, maybe crazy battles or whatever the case be, would then all come together and be like, you know what, that's our real enemy over there, and it's, you know, government tyranny is what it would be then. And that's when you'd have that go from that civil war to that actual revolution, revolt is what it would be then. So, yeah. It's interesting, too, because you can look at it through history, actually. It's happened several times in several different centuries in many, many countries across this earth. So, like I said, though, I'm really pissed off right now. I really am. It's very infuriating to know that I got fucked over today, and to know exactly why I got fucked over, and just like look at it and be like, this is some bullshit, dude. Yet meanwhile, what's even more fucked up, right, is there's accounts that I've actually seen on that site that have done like various stuff, and I've reported those accounts to those people, and yet nothing has happened. You know, absolutely nothing has happened to these people, but yet they'll violate my account. It's just fucked up, man. It really is infuriating. Actually, while we're here talking about freedom of speech and, you know, voter stuff and everything else like that, we'll talk about this story that just popped up because I was jumping out of my account there for my email account. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nissel, who is a criminal herself, charges, quote, false electors over efforts to overturn 2020 election, coming from the bitch who literally helped ensure that Gretchen Whitmer remained in power after multiple recalls and should be in prison herself right now for various voter fraud. That's pretty fucking hilarious, dude. Dana Nissel is one of the biggest pieces of shit in America currently, dude. And again, just like Whitmer, just like Jacqueline Benson in Michigan there, all three of those women should be in state prison at the state house or in their in the state of Michigan. And I'm pretty sure Michigan still has death penalty as well, if I'm not mistaken. And for what they did, for the violations they committed, dude, they should be on death row, legitimately. So, because we all know what happened there, man. We all know the fuckery that they caused and everything else like that. So, yeah, just a bunch of shit entirely. Just to be fair, I know that me clicking down on that video posted like a video for a couple seconds from mainstream media. That is covered under fair use YouTube. Don't even think about trying to channel strike me over that one because I will fight it. I'm literally talking about a article about Michigan's AG that happened to show a video there. Not on purpose. Didn't realize there was a video embedded in there. Not my fault. So, anyway. I'm going to check something else then. I'm thinking about it because I know that I have done. Now I have another account that I made for Twitter based on my other 2A group. Want to make sure that one's still active now and didn't get fucked up either. So. Let's see here now. Nope, don't see anything on that one. Oh yeah, apparently, I guess Ohio Gunners did a good one. I think it was yesterday, as a Facebook/Twitter, like hour something long video, where they explained issue 1, and they're talking about. This is actually what this video is originally going to be about today. Now I'm thinking about it offhand. We're almost an hour in now, and I'll talk about it more probably either tomorrow or sometime on Friday for Freedom Friday. But basically, there's a group that is against issue 1 called Fair Districts Ohio, and one of their main objectives right now is to basically force through some amendment in the future. This is why they want to keep our state constitution 50% plus 1 vote, because they want to throw in some bullshit amendment later on that would force through more Democrat representation in our state house, even though Democrats don't even make up a fucking third of the state right now. And the only reason that they have 30-something people in our state house right now is because they've gerrymandered 3 major fucking cities in this state, being Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati, as well as other places like Dayton and Toledo and etc. there for multiple seats. Is what it is. You have over 10 people representing Franklin County alone right now, which is literally the city of Columbus, basically, and a few suburbs there. And you have Cleveland, aka Cuyahoga County area there, that has I think it's 10 or 12 there as well. And the same thing with Cincinnati. There's 8 or 10 there. And then there's 4 or 5 in Dayton, 3 or 4 in Toledo, etc. there. And this is the problem right now, is they have gerrymandered these major cities so blue that they're adding extra seats where they don't need to be. Which brings me to the point that if issue 1 does not pass in August, on August 8th, come August 9th or 10th, my go-to thing right now will be, I do plan on making an amendment into the state constitution, which would be forcing in 2 different laws. The first one would be 1 county, 1 rep legislation as state law, which would be, instead of having 99 people in our state house, you would have each county have 1 representative representing it. So it'd be 88 people there. There would also be, secondarily, instead of having 33 state senators, you would then have 22. You would actually have less people across both sides, is what it is. You would have each state senator being given a 4 square of counties, and that's who they represent. Because that's the problem right now, I believe, truthfully, in this state, in this country. You have so many people in their own states, in this country, that don't even know who represent them at a state level, whether it be as their state rep or their state senator. Because the problem is, you have these people who represent multiple districts or pieces of districts or whatever it is there in various counties. And then you have a district that is split into 4 or 5 pieces in the same county. And so you have one guy over here in this piece, you have another guy over here in this piece, and you have a third guy over here in this piece, or you have a chick here, a chick there, a chick there, a chick over here, a chick over there, a dude over there, a dude over here, etc., etc. Where if you actually had a true representation going on again, you would have less corruption, you would have less fuckery going on for people trying to gerrymander and stuff like that, and you would actually have true, free, and fair elections again. And on that note, what we would also do with the 1 county, 1 rep legislation is we would actually force through something in that would actually be to do away with that bullshit 2013 Kasich amendment that was put through to allow that cocksucker to do two-party primaries. And you would actually have Ohio become an open primary state again, is what it'll be. So you can either vote for Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party, Internet Libertarian, Constitutional Party, Democrat, Socialist, whatever the fuck you want to be, Communist for that matter. You could have anybody putting their fucking hat into the ring at that point then to run for a political party in the state then. So that would all be 1 piece of legislation is what it would be then. And then the second one, which would be what I call mandatory maximum term limits, which would be, right now as it stands, the state of Ohio, as of I think it was 2015 or so, I think this was actually a constitutional amendment that was put through back then. I believe I actually put it forward is what it was. And it forced through term limits on our state house and state senate, which was supposed to be, you got 8 years over here, you got 8 years over there, and then you get the hell out, basically, is what it was. But instead of what happened was, you've had these people now that have been termed out on the state house side and have simply flipped over to the state senate side. Or most recently here in 2022, you had pieces of shit like Cecil Thomas, anti-gunner, asshole, and criminal Democrat who should be in prison right now in the state of Ohio for deprivation of law and other things like that for trying to steal our gun rights 4 years ago, and then 3 years ago, and then 2 years ago, and then as of this year, he's still doing the damn shit. You've had this douchebag who should have been termed out back in 2022 on the state senate side and has simply ran for election cycle on the state house side and got a seat there is what it was. He basically flip-flopped one of the chicks is what it was, because it was him running for that seat that I believe was either held by Catherine Ingram or Paula Hicks Hudson, who then, both of those chicks ran for seats over in the opposite side that were Senate seats in our state Senate that were up for terms and stuff like that. And of course, they both took those down because they were super blue gerrymandered areas, is what it was. And that's the problem, though. None of these three people should be in office right now. Neither should Shane Wilkin, who did the same shit because he was a 3-term state rep and then was like, oh, this is my time to jump over state Senate now and have 8 more years over here now. That should have seen him disqualified on the spot as well. That was, by the way, for those who don't know, Shane Wilkin was the fucking scumbag son of a bitch who for a year and a half held up constitutional carry hearings in the House Oversight Committee. And is exactly why we didn't have Ohio become the 22nd constitutional carry state, because this dumbass fucking waited so long to actually allow it to go out of committee is what it was, and to go to the floor votes and stuff. So, yeah, because of that asshole, you have to be 23 instead of being 22 and 22. Anyways, so yeah, he should be out of office as well. Bob Peterson, who's the douchebag running the House Oversight Committee right now, who used to be a state senator, who's now a state rep again. That motherfucker is the one giving these 100% Democrat bills fucking hearings now. That dude should have been disqualified out of fucking office based on the term limit thing. And yeah, it's fuckery been going on for years now. The only reason Kirk Shearing, the guy I was going to run against last year for the state Senate there, the only reason that motherfucker's still in the state Senate right now is because him and Scott Olinger, who's the state rep currently, every 6 to 8 years or so, they will flip-flop each other in the General Assembly so they can both remain in power and be career politicians. It's absolute bullshit, and both those guys should be thrown the fuck out of office right now. And basically what it would do is this mandatory maximum term limit thing that would be put in place then, it would be, you would already have, we already have the term limits in place is what it is. You would then add context and add more law to that already existing law is what it is, which would basically be enforcement of term limits at that point. And it would essentially say something along the lines of any person, and it would be a retroactive thing, by the way, it'd be any person who has been in the Ohio General Assembly for at least 10 continuous years or more is automatically termed out at the end of their current term. And if they have been in there for longer than 10 years at this point, they are automatically removed from office, period. And we will hold special elections to replace them for a new state senator, a new state rep, whatever the case be then. And that's another thing, too, we would actually add in that one. It would be, because apparently, currently in the state of Ohio, we don't actually have special elections to replace reps when they either leave office or die in office, like in the case of poor Chris Jordan. Instead, they're replaced by some fucking puppet by the heads of the General Assembly at that point, whether it be current Speaker of the House, Jason Stevens, or whatever the case be. It's exactly why, by the way, Jason Stevens wants Bob Young to resign over the whole domestic violence thing that happened recently, because Stevens wants to replace Young with some fucking Stevens Stooges or what it is, so he can have more power there and solidify his power as Speaker of the House currently, and like future votes and stuff like that. Because we all know right now that apparently the way things are going currently, Matt Hoffman, who is the current Senate president in the state of Ohio, he's the third guy in line to the governorship right now. He is actually termed out next year in 2024, and there's a lot of back talk and various, backdoor meetings and stuff like that. The Hoffman's going to try and do the same shit that Wilkin and everybody else did now, which is basically jump from the state Senate to the state House next year in some election cycle there in 2024. And then if he was able to successfully do that, he's going to try to take down the Speaker of the House race is what it would be then, which is, according to Chris Dorr, one of the videos he put out a few months ago is what it was. He was talking about this specific topic, and he said something along the lines of, it's very hard to do that when you have a current Speaker of the House like Jason Stevens in place right now. That's backed by Democrats. So, yeah. Either way, it's a bunch of shit, and, that's the thing, right? I'm not saying that Hoffman hasn't done good stuff for the state of Ohio in the last, 7 years of his, Senate run and stuff like that and being Senate president and shit in the last, few years, here's what it is. But, dude, you have had nearly a decade of your life in power. Leave and go do something else, sir. And the same thing to everyone else out there. To you, Paula Hicks Hudson, to you, Catherine Ingram, to you, Shane Wilkin. You people have had, to you, Bob Peterson, to you, Cecil Thomas, you fuckers have had at least a decade or damn close to it in power currently. Get the hell out of the fucking state house, get the hell out of the state senate, and go do an actual job. Stop fucking sucking off the taxpayer tit when it comes to getting your fucking paychecks. Which, by the way, Y'all fuckers should never get paid if you're not actually in place, in office, doing through legislation and introducing legislation and putting through legislation in various committees and various House hearings, various Senate hearings, etc. there. If you're on vacation or whatever the case be, guess what? You get no pay. You're not getting paid $100 and something fucking dollars a day for doing nothing, dude. Which is what they're getting paid right now. It's like 100. I think I did like the thing about a year or two ago about it of how much they get paid today is what it is through their salaries, and it's like $137 to like $176 a day basically for doing nothing when they're on vacation. And it's like, must be nice, dude. Must be nice to make like $100 something a day or more to sit there and do nothing and be able to fuck off to your house and hang out with your kids or your wife or your family or whatever it is. You know, go on some fishing trip, go on some hunting trip, whatever the case be, when you should be in your actual state representation office or your state senator office, whatever it is there, putting through legislation, doing good stuff is what it is. So, actually, speaking of stuff I mentioned today, one of the last tweets that I put out this morning, actually, before the account was suspended by Twitter there, is I was talking about a piece of legislation that I think was introduced today is what it was, but it already had, like, it's already being, like, it was technically, like, pre-filed or whatever to, I think, be put into the thing today is what it was then, and it was already being talked about on, like, social media sites and stuff like that. It's basically House Bill 245, and it would ban, just like all these other states have done with banning drag in public places, like kids would be at and stuff like that, like public parks and stuff like that, as it should have been years ago, honestly, dude. It's like, unless you're going to do unless you're like grooming kids and doing like some creepy pedo enabler shit, dude, like there's no reason to be around children, dude, in public spaces, you know, in some drag queen outfit or swinging your dick around in kids' faces and shit like that, dude. I'd also like to point out something that nobody ever talks about, which is how a lot of these people, I'm not saying all of them, but there is quite a few of them, I would say at least a good portion, 40-something% maybe or so, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more even, that are convicted sex offenders in this country. And it might not be in every single state. It might be like one or two here and there. But overall, when you start bringing up like all of them as a whole, then it does get to be a larger percentage of what it is then. And yeah, you have these people that'll sit there and, you know, do all kinds of shady shit is what it is. And it's because they want to be around kids, dude. They want to be around kids to be their future victims is what it is. And yet, meanwhile, as this legislation is basically sort of a copy and paste of what other places like Tennessee have done in the past year, you should be treating these performances, these adult performances that, by the way, drag shows were only ever in places like strip clubs and cabaret bars and shit like that up until like a decade ago, because they were adult entertainment, by the way. People always never bring up that point of it, though. That's why I will. I mean, some do, but obviously I will as well. But yeah, they were never allowed out in public spaces, dude, to begin with, and they shouldn't be, because they are adult performances. You shouldn't be having some person sexually dancing in front of fucking children that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, whatever age group there, or even a little bit older for that matter. There is zero reason for that shit, dude. Absolutely zero reason. You shouldn't be having these people read fucking books at libraries to these kids. You shouldn't be having any of that stuff go on. It's absolutely retarded. So, yeah, needless to say, it needs to be treated like it is right now. And basically, with the 245, what it would be is I think the first offense would be a high-level misdemeanor is what it is, and then it's basically any offense after that, or if it meets like certain parameters. I think it's like kids under like 13 or something like that is what it is then. So if you're doing like performances in front of a bunch of children, then that's like, you know, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, etc. You get, I believe it's a 5th-degree felony for that. And then if you end up getting back out after the 5th-degree felony, which is only, I think, a few months in jail or something like that, then it ups to a 4th-degree felony, which is like 18 months in jail. So, and then I think it keeps stacking after that, like every consecutive arrest then, if that be the case then, which honestly, how hard is it to just do like 3 strikes laws, dude? Really, truthfully. Or even just like 1 strike for pedophiles and stuff like that. Actually, that's another thing too, by the way, going back to the Twitter account there. If they really wanted to suspend me for stuff, dude, there's been several posts I made on the site where I've talked about doing 1 strike laws and why we should have 1 strike laws in place for pedophiles. But yeah, that didn't violate their terms of service, apparently, because I guess it's because I'm talking about pedos and I'm not directly talking about a single person is what it would be. Maybe that's what it is, man. Maybe it's because of the fact that I was specifically talking about people like Sowell or Asa Hutchinson or whatever the case be. Whereas the other ones were just like indirect, like, oh, just like broad brush kind of thing is what it was then. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. But the thing of it is, though, right? Like, even going back to what Antifa and BLM have done with our direct action terrorist attacks and stuff like that, dude, sometimes it had a place, sometimes it didn't. You know? In a lot of cases, and like what they were doing earlier this year with the whole, like, quote unquote, like, Trans Day of Revenge thing or whatever, it was just calling for like nationwide rioting and stuff like that, dude. So, like, that was just broad brush, you know, fucking violence that they were talking about doing then. So I don't know. It's just really, like I said, it's just very infuriating. And hopefully I can figure something out here sometime in the next like 6 hours or so and go from there. But if I can't, unfortunately, the network's account on Twitter is now suspended permanently as far as I'm aware. And I don't know, man. Obviously, I still have Ohioans for Firearms Freedom on there, which I'll probably go back to if that be the case. I mean, that's still active. I think it is. And we'll just post from there is what it'll be then for the time being. Because that was obviously created first anyway. And that's another thing too, by the way, just so we're clear on everything like that. Not a violation when we created both accounts pretty much the same day there, Twitter. Actually, technically, Ohioans for Firearms Freedom was on there about a year or so before that as something else, and I replaced it and changed it up to Ohioans for Firearms Freedom. And then it was last year was when I created Ohio Patriot Education Network. So, yeah. Either way, a bunch of shit that they suspended me on some crap like that I guarantee was algorithm shit, so. Are we talking about a federal gun ban or are we talking about a state gun ban here? Because I assume we're talking about like federal assault weapons ban or something like that, maybe. Which I know they don't have the votes on right now. That's why they've been trying not to go for votes on it, is what it is, because they don't have the votes anywhere, is what it is for it. And yeah, I know they're always trying to do gun control shit there. I know Massachusetts is trying to do some fuckery. I think it was yesterday and today is what it was for like backdoor meetings and stuff. I don't know if that's gone anywhere or not. But like I said, we'll be talking about that here come Thursday anyway. So, but anyway. So, I actually am going to read something here, which I thought was interesting. This is some email that I got from Chris Dorr this morning on my in my email. He was talking about issue 1 here. It said, we have been getting a lot of feedback and questions from a lot of Ohio Gunner members about issue 1 question on August 8th special election ballot, and instead of replying to them individually, thought I would share the answers. So here so that gun voters can all benefit from them. This is the first of several emails, and when we get finished with the series, we will link them all together as a single web article about the information, is what Dorr said there. So, grab this up real quick. So, question, what about the down the road? What crap will the politicians shove down the throats later if this issue 1 passes? And is there a difference between Ohio Constitution and Ohio Revised Code? Protecting our freedoms from threats down the road or from politicians who want to shove tyranny down our throats is exactly what Ohio Gunner supports, passing issue 1 and raising the threshold to change the Ohio Constitution from 50% to 60%. I don't believe there is a difference between the Ohio Constitution and Ohio Revised Code. It's all the same shit, by the way. It's just sometimes it's called, when they do the changes in the State House, they always call it Ohio Revised Code, you know, section this, section that. But in reality, it's all the state constitution what it is at the end of the day. And then you continue down here and said, explanation, first like to define the Ohio Constitution. So here we go. How to find the Ohio Constitution and Ohio Revised Code are, because it is important to understand their proper rules in order to clearly understand issue 1. Ohio Constitution is the foundation of Ohio government and the foundation for all laws in the state of Ohio. It is the bedrock standard for Ohio government, must operate in accordance with all laws, must comply with and agree to. And it supersedes. Okay. So there's 2 different things then. I thought that was the same thing. Okay, so it's not 2. It's 2 different things then. Okay, so it supersedes the Ohio Revised Code. Ohio Revised Code is a set of laws and statutes passed by the Ohio General Assembly. That makes more sense then, because that's why they're always trying to change the Ohio Revised Code then, not the Ohio Constitution then. Okay. So Ohio Revised Code is the state laws and statutes that are passed by the Ohio General Assembly, which govern our day-to-day lives and which are enforced by Ohio state law enforcement. Ohio General Assembly is comprised of state representatives, state senators elected by the citizens of Ohio and represent we the people. Article 1, Section 4 of the Ohio Constitution says that we the people have the right to keep and bear arms for our defense, for their defense and security. Beautiful statement to have in a constitution, but one might reasonably ask the question, so because the Ohio Constitution, which is the highest law in Ohio, says that we have the right to keep bear arms, does this mean we've always had constitutional carry? The answer is no, and for two main reasons. First is the Ohio Constitution as a fundamental document is not where the laws governing the carrying of firearms in Ohio are codified. Okay, so that makes more sense. So it wasn't the Ohio Constitution that codified National Firearms Act and other stupid anti-gun laws into place. It was the Ohio Revised Code that did that some decades ago then. So anyway, continuing on here, it says, let's see, so laws governing laws governing the carrying of firearms are found in the Ohio Revised Code. These laws made by Ohio General Assembly, whom voters elected. Second reason why we do not have constitutional carry until 2021 in Ohio, even though Article 1, Section 4 of the Ohio Constitution clearly allows for it, is because Ohio law enforcement enforces the Ohio Revised Code, not the state constitution. I want to be crystal clear about this, so please forgive me for belating the point. It is clear that ever since the original Ohio Constitution was passed back in 1802, Ohioans have had a constitutional right to carry a concealed firearm. Ohio Revised Code, however, did not agree with that interpretation of the Ohio Constitution and outlawed the practice of carrying a handgun concealed unless you had a license from the state. So anyone who had a concealed weapon without a license before 2021 and got caught by a cop was easily arrested under mishandling firearms motor vehicle. In most cases, what it was in that one. They were also charged and convicted under the law of the Ohio Revised Code. Note that, yes, the prohibition on carrying without a license was likely unconstitutional in Article 1, Section 4 of the Ohio Constitution, but lawsuits challenging such are expensive and were not an opportunity at the time, or not an option at the time. So that is the main reasons that Chris apparently started Ohio Gun Owners, so that one of the Ohio Revised Code and Ohio Constitution to say the same thing, so that lawful citizens could carry without government licensing and without being, given permission and stuff like that. So there's the whole thing. Let's see. Future proof. Ohio is in a constant state of change. Right now, Ohio has a Republican supermajority in the General Assembly. And Republicans hold every state office, including governor's office. Because of those facts, we've made significant progress in passing pro-gun legislation in the Ohio General Assembly over the last several years. We're passing legislation that requires and will continue to require crossing the 50% threshold. But Ohio has always been a large Republican majorities, and it will likely not always have them in the future. If and when Democrats take control of the Ohio General Assembly at some point, they will have the opportunity to change Ohio's gun laws and the Ohio Revised Code by passing legislation with a simple majority vote, just like we have changed Ohio's gun laws and the Revised Code by passing legislation with a simple majority vote. None of that will change if Issue 1 passes. What will change is Issue 1 passes is that by raising the voting threshold from 50 to 60% to change any part of the Ohio Constitution, the bedrock and the foundation of Ohio's laws and system of government will be protected from the radical changes we see happening across this country every single day. So, yeah, needless to say, it basically stops these fuckers like Bloomberg and company from doing something like ballot measure 114 like they did in Oregon, which would basically fuck over our Constitution, force in permit to purchase scams, force in magazine bans, etc. And not to mention on that one, obviously, is Chris and Rob Kingsley I think his name is Rob Kingsley or Kingsland. I forget something. That Rob guy that works for Hog Gunners is what it is. That by the way, that Rob guy used to work for one of the state reps here in Ohio. He was one of their aides there for a couple years. It was one of the Pro 2A guys that's now out of office. What this thing was, I think it might have been Ron Hood, actually. I'm thinking about it, or somebody like that. But anyway, so basically, what it is you would have Bloomberg and company, which are obviously behind the Vote No campaign for Issue 1. They're, every town, Mom's Demand, etc. are all behind it, is what it is. They want to keep our thing at 50% plus 1 because they want to have that single extra vote after 50% be able to fuck with our, 49.9999999 repeating percent. and basically take away our state preemption, take away our constitutional carry right, take away our stand your ground laws, etc., with some BS amendment that'll probably most likely also enshrine other gun control into it, red flag laws, universal background checks, magazine bans, safe storage laws, assault weapons bans. Obviously, they're all unconstitutional, by the way. Yeah, they would go for broke, dude. They would go for broke. Obviously, they do permit to purchase schemes, where it's, you know, something that was overturned there in North Carolina recently this year because obviously it's unconstitutional and it's a literal fucking Jim Crow racist law. You fucking racist prick, Bloomberg. That's what nobody ever calls out, and that's why I'll call out Bloomberg's ass directly on that one. That's also why I'll call it that piece of shit Roy Cooper, who's the current governor of North Carolina, that old racist prick. That motherfucker had the ability twice, by the way, to do away as governor and sign off on the legislation that would have allowed for a 100-something-year-old Jim Crow law to basically be thrown out of the fucking books, is what it was there, for the pistol permit to purchase thing there. And that son of a bitch vetoed it twice. That shows you exactly where Democrat Roy Cooper's head's at, dude. Is he doesn't want minorities to be gun owners in this country. He's a piece of shit is what it is, dude, and a fucking racist asshole. So anyway, and that's exactly what part of ballot measure 114 there in Oregon became, which, by the way, if you look into that whole thing, Bloomberg and them, it was basically Bloomberg and Giffords working, doing like a side-by-side, you know, intertwined thing is what it was there, to basically pay off people for voting and stuff. They end up spending, I think it was like $2.36 or something per vote to fuck over Oregon's gun rights and get enough Antifa and BLM types to go out there and vote for ballot measure 114, which is rightfully being fought in the courts now. But unfortunately, you had some fucking Obama pedo judge recently that was like, oh no, this doesn't violate things because even though you look at the Heller decision, you look at the Bruin decisions, yeah, you don't actually have common use for ARs and high, quote unquote, high capacity magazines being used for everyday home defenses. It's like, bullshit, you don't, motherfucker. You can look at anything across this country, anytime a home invasion happens in this nation, dude, and have how many videos, how many fucking police reports, etc., of people using ARs, AKs, etc., for home defense, dude. Hell, look at that one woman down in Florida. She was I think she was 8.5 months pregnant or something at the time. Her husband and son were out in the living room. Fucking two criminal black dudes ran into their house, broke into their home, were beating her fucking husband, pistol whipping his ass. She came rolling out with his fucking AR out of the back of the bedroom where she was taking a nap, and started popping off rounds at these fucking guys. One of them smacked the one guy right in the fucking like back. It was either the back of the neck or it was like the back of the spinal cord or something like that. And he dropped fucking dead in their ditch. And then the other one, I think, was found like a little bit down the road with like some gunshot wounds to his leg is what it was. And I think he was actually charged with felony murder in Florida, if I'm not mistaken, because of his buddy dying at the scene is what it was there. So anyway, but yeah, like that's just one of the examples from more recently in the last few years is what it is, dude. Also, I do want to point out that that's something I missed yesterday when I was doing grandstands and stuff. Yesterday was the first anniversary of Eli Dickin stopping a massacre at the Indiana Mall last year. So, yeah, good on Eli. We here at the network applaud Eli's courage under pressure and being able to stop a fucking nut from taking more lives that day than he already did. So, all right, let's see here. The gun control case is called the READ Act and Untraceable Firearms Act. Goes heavily into policy number 80. Let's see, trying to permanently enact reservation of the 1988 Untraceable Firearms Act and READ Act amendment, which would give a lot more power, all in the current NDAA. Fucking ridiculous, dude. I thought they already passed I thought they already passed that legislation the other day. Or is that, it was just the House that passed it, and I'm thinking about it, so it'd be going to the Senate now? That would make sense for this year's. And yeah, I think it passed the House the other day, so it'd be in the state Senate, or sorry, it'd be federal Senate right now, is where that would be at. Dude, I'll tell you what, like any day, I look at it right now, like we're going to civil war with the fucking government at this point, dude. Like, we're going to have a revolution in this country in the next few years, I guarantee it right now. It's shit like that, by the way, it's going to pop it off. Them trying to codify gun control federally and take Americans' rights to keep and bear arms away, dude. Like, this is what causes a new generation of founding fathers in this country, dude. And it's not going to be people like me that are going to be the founding fathers, dude. We're going to be the fucking guys that are in the background being like, hey, guys, maybe y'all should put this in this Constitution now. And just having like a say in the back or whatever. It's like the old guy smoking a pipe in the back or whatever then. And meanwhile, it's going to be these young generation people that are, you know, teens, 20-somethings, etc. there. They're going to be the guys that are going to be the ones that will be the new version of founding fathers in the modern age when it's all said and done. Or in some cases, it might be the older guard for that matter, the guys that are in like their, you know, late 30s, early 40s for that matter, that are ex-military vets and stuff like that. Or not, I don't know why I said it that way. They are military vets. They are ex-military guys, is what it would be, and gals for that matter in some cases. That would be the ones that have been deployed, seen combat overseas, etc., and still have a grip with the government is what it is right now for fucking with their lives and, you know, give them the PTSD and stuff like that is what it would be. Or, you know, maybe they lost a limb or something like that in one of these wars for resources and shit like that, and bankster wars and everything else like that. So, yeah, needless to say, it's understandable, dude. And I think that's what would happen, honestly. You would have a mix of those people being the new generation of the founding fathers in 2024, 2025, 2026, whatever's going to happen then. So, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised by it. Like I said, on any given day right now, I'm looking for something to kick off in this country currently. And I think we're heading towards that point right now in history where it's going to happen very, very soon as it will be. It's just a matter of, like I've said, I made the analogy before, I'll make it again right now. You know, you got all the powder, all the gunpowder sitting in that, you know, little cabin there. Back in 1776, you got some fucking guy puffing away on some cigar or whatever the case be. That lit piece of ash goes flying into the air, goes towards the gunpowder, hits the fucking, you know, big old powder charge, and it's just sizzling its way to the powder keg, just waiting to explode. And it just keeps sizzling and sizzling and sizzling. And maybe it's a little bit long, like, you know, every 2A win we get or whatever the case be, maybe that powder extends back a little bit further and it sizzles a little bit, or even the, you know, maybe somebody knocked down a glass of water or something on some of the powder and the powder's a little bit wet now and it's a little bit harder for it to get past it because it's just sizzling in place basically. But eventually it's going to sizzle all the way to that keg, man. And it's going to be a when it finally does. And it's going to be on that day or that week or whatever the case be that you're going to see something pop off in this country. You're going to see probably a hot civil war, a hot revolution, whatever it's going to be then. A balkanization event, doesn't really matter. It could be any of those things. And the more and more that we're heading towards things, I think it's going to lead more to that. Whether it be, you know, them trying to get us into World War III right now, whether it be them trying to do unconstitutional gun grabs like this right now, whether it be the fact you're literally funding another country with fucking arms and weaponry while you're trying to restrict the American people's ability to keep and bear arms and being a complete and total hypocritical fucking tyrant sack of shit cheater like that asshole Biden is, whether it be them fucking giving a bunch of arms, etc., to their fucking backup country being Ukraine, which is exactly why Ukraine and Russia can both go fuck themselves right now, honestly. That's not American affairs, dude. Stop fucking with American fucking inflation and everything else like that. Stop trying to inflate American economy through bullshit fucking billions and trillions of dollars and stuff like that is what it is. So, and then especially when you got the criminal element being the ones doing this shit. And of course, the criminals, who are they voting for? They're voting for Democrats, dude. Or their family members that aren't technically felons are voting for fucking Democrat Party every single election cycle is what it is. And then if they're not voting for Democrats, they're voting for the worst fucking rhino sack of shit in the fucking race is what it is. And that's the exact problem, honestly, right now. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is the entire problem when we have... You know, you brought up a good point, Daniel. I'm going to go on this rant, and I'm going to do it the right way. We're going to go fucking mega rant, bitch. So, the entire point I'm trying to make is, you know, when you're doing this kind of thing, and you have money in politics to where it's going to take millions to tens of millions of dollars for people to be able to run in a Senate race, to run in a congressional race, whatever it is, most people are not financially wealthy like that. Most people don't have that kind of capital. They can just self-fund an election race is what it is. And so what you end up having is you have these people that do backdoor shady-ass deals with giant corporations
with anti-gun lobbies like Michael Bloomberg and Everytown Moms Demand, etc. there to get into office. You got pieces of shit like Maxwell Frost that claim to be funding half of his campaign using fucking credit cards. Which, by the way, the fact that he was putting that shit on credit cards should have disqualified him on the spot from even fucking running, because he didn't have the fucking financial capital to even run for office, man. But of course, he was backed by March for Our Lives and all these other younger anti-gun douchebags is what it was. Their orgs and stuff like that were putting money in his pocket is what it was there. And this becomes an issue. When you are directly running for office, whether it be Congress, Senate, state House Representatives, et cetera, governor's race, AG's race, county prosecutor for that matter, or a DA or whatever, then if you are running on a platform of gun control, you should be disqualified on the spot from the fucking running. So, and that's the one thing that really pisses me off. Obviously, yesterday you had the dickhead Frank LaRose decide it was a good idea to fucking, go out there and be like, oh, well, I'm now running for U.S. Senate, and then acts like he's like the outsider, doesn't have money and shit like that. And the mainstream media is cut for him, by that way, for that matter as well. Even though this dude, his family owns one of the biggest beer distributors in the state of Ohio. They do a lot of Anheuser-Busch distribution and stuff like that. That's why they lost a bunch of money because of Bud Light's whole controversy and stuff like that recently. But yeah, he still has a beer distributor there that's worth like a few $1 billion, basically, if not like at least hundreds of millions anyway. And he's acting as if he can't self-fund his Senate run. And he's like, oh, would you help me on day one of my campaign donations? And it's like, fuck you, dude. Fund your own shit. Or get the fuck out of the race, asshole, and do your actual job right now as Secretary of State, something you were elected to less than a fucking year ago, dickhead. Like, Jesus Christ, buddy. Seriously, it was like 8-9 months ago when that asshole was elected to Secretary of State's office for a second term, and yet he's done nothing during that time except fuck off, and now trying to run for U.S. Senate instead of actually doing his fucking job as Secretary of State. It's like, if you're not going to do your job, dude, then fucking resign from office and let whoever the hell is the Deputy Secretary of State then take the fuck over in that position for the rest of the damn term. Or better yet, we have a special election, we hold a new fucking race, and we have a new Secretary of State after the fact. That'd be the case then. So, anyway. Which we should do that anyway, because of the fact that Secretary of State's office is legitimately fifth in line only to the governor here. So, or no, sorry. Yeah, fifth. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Senate President, Speaker. Yeah, okay. So yeah, Secretary of State is fifth down the line of succession. And then it goes, it's either treasurer and auditor, or then auditor and treasurer. I forget which one is 6 and 7. And then the 8th one is obviously AG. And then it goes, I think if it would be all those guys being taken out or whatever, then, in like handcuffs or whatever for some criminal charges or whatever, then I think it would go down to like the highest ranking member of the General Assembly or something after that. Then is what it would be. So it would be whoever will be the, I'm trying to think of how the thing goes now. It would be like President Pro Tempore or something like that. I think it's like 9th or 10th in line then or whatever then. So I've never actually looked hard enough into it, because everything I've ever found, it would just went out of AG and then it cut off after that. So I'm guessing it'd be something where we never actually had that unprecedented thing happen where everybody got arrested or whatever then. So we have no idea who 9th in line for the secession of Ohio would be then. So anyway. Anyways. But, yeah, as a 500 Mag pointed out, sick and tired of being blamed for the actions of criminals that they refuse to hold accountable because of their crimes. Yep, exactly. And that's the problem, too. And even when you look at all these mass shootings and stuff like that happen across this country in the last year or two now, and throughout like the last 10 or 15 years now, I would say a good 70 to 75% of them are all fucking false flags, honestly. They're all legitimately done by our government, whether it be through SSRI antidepressant people, or whether it be actual MK Ultra activated agents at that point that they've been grooming for years and then send them off to go do their massacre. It's just like Uvalde, actually. When you look at that kid, there's very good likelihood that that kid, when he was 14 years old, was arrested for talking about back in, like, I think it was 2018, he was going to do something in 2022 that was going to rival Columbine. And so they had that kid for 4 years pretty much grooming his ass with the FBI and the ATF, et cetera, there. Every operating agency that wanted to, CIA, whatever else there. and wanted to basically like indoctrinate that kid into just fucking just being a nutcase, basically. Which also makes sense how he was able to fund like a couple $1,000 rifles, because it's like, yeah, I don't care how much your little Wendy's job paid, dude. Pretty sure it wasn't enough for either one of those guns, let alone both of them together. So makes a lot more sense that it would be like government being like, here's some money, go buy these guns now, and all this ammo now. So, but yeah, it's just a bunch of shit either way. But like I said, pretty pissed off. Going full circle back to everything here on social media censorship today. Pretty pissed off that Network's account got suspended on Twitter. Like I said, gonna fight it, obviously. Gonna try to appeal it somehow, but I don't know if an appeal is gonna work or not. If nothing else, we still have Ohioans for Firearms Freedom on the site. Haven't used that account in a few months now, is what it is. Mostly because it was actually a subsidiary of the Ohio Patriot Education Network. It was basically the way I was trying to do things actually in this whole thing with my 2A orgs and stuff like that. We obviously started back in 2021 with Ohioans for Firearms Freedom, and then eventually it was last year we created Ohio Patriot Education Network, and the entire point was to have Network be the circle in the middle there, and then you have like all the branches out of it, kind of like a spider's web, where you have that one big org in the middle, kind of like when you look at Bloomberg's organizations, how every town is like the main one, and then it's like Moms Demand Action is like a direct, web from there, and then you got Students Demand Action over here, and you got the other ones over here and there, and everything else like that. So that would be kind of what Open would be. Open would have been the main one. We would have been like the Pro 2A version of every town, and then you would have had Ohioans for Firearms Freedom be one of our lobbying groups on the one thing there. You would have had other ones branch out from there. We actually had another one I was going to create called DOOR, which was Defenders of Ohioans' Rights. And unfortunately, we don't have the money right now to fund lawyers in this country, because if we did, that's what that one would have been. It would have been directly, would have been funding lawyers on retainer, and their entire job would have been to go and help us overturn current laws and stuff like that, or even be used for people that have had their rights fucked over in this state through various, maybe they didn't know the Ohio law or whatever the case be, and they weren't really doing anything wrong. Maybe they just had like a tail light out or whatever the case be, or maybe they ran a red light and got caught with a firearm in their vehicle, and then they caught like some, mishandling a firearms and motor vehicle charge or whatever the case be, so now they're a convicted felon, now they can't actually have their gun rights anymore. It would be for people like that could actually get their rights restored, then is what it would be. Which, by the way, should have been an automatic thing in constitutional carry when it passed out of the state senate a couple years ago. Unfortunately, it wasn't, because, again, the people behind it didn't bother putting it in there, which I even called them out on that one. I'm like, dude, put that in there, please. Like, stop allowing people to get fucked over in the state and have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to get their rights restored, when in reality they should have never been a fucking felon to begin with, is what it is in many cases. So, yeah. I have no problem giving people a second chance like that got fucked over like that. My thing is, though, if you're doing criminal shit on a regular basis, like, nah, bro, fuck you, you can rot then. But if it's just like some random dude, like specifically, if you look, there's a story about a year and a half or so ago. It was, I think it happened it was during 2020, actually. There was a young kid here named Ronan Sweeney that got murdered by a group of people who were trying to jack his mother and her boyfriend's Corona stimulus checks. And they killed Ronan in her arms and almost blew her fucking brains out too. And then it was the two of them. Her boyfriend ended up getting a gun from his cousin, and he basically had it with him in a car that then ended up getting stopped later on at night at some point. And the cops basically busted both of them for mishandling a firearms from a vehicle, even though he was the one that technically was in possession of the gun. They both caught the charge, which is absolute bullshit. And truthfully, neither one of them should be convicted felons in the state right now, because they both should have been covered under what it should have been constitutional carry back then, is what it would have been, because they were both over the age of 21, obviously. So, or even in that same vein of things, like what I've talked about with the 21 to 18 thing before, there was a kid. There's that new show, OP Live, which is basically the successor to Live PD. About 3 or 4 months ago now, I was watching that, and they do Toledo, Ohio on there every weekend. And you had the one kid who was 19 years old, had tinted windows, which, by the way, was one thing that they actually put into the constitutional carry, the whole Terry stop bullshit, to like window tint and stuff like that. So they stopped this kid for window tint. He was 19 years old and he was carrying constitutionally, but because you have to be over 21 to carry constitutionally in Ohio, they busted him for mishandling firearms and motor vehicle. And I think he had like a joint or something on him too as well in that one. So they busted him for that shit too. And it was basically like drugs and guns together kind of shit. So they put like a third charge on him then. And yeah, this kid's entire life is ruined right now because he was literally just trying to carry constitutionally in the state that he should have been able to legally carry in at the age of 19, honestly. It's like you can go join the military at 18 or even 17 with parents' consent and stuff like that, dude. You should 100% be able to carry legally in the state at 19 then. So, anyway, yeah, it's a bunch of shit either way, man. And it's definitely one of the ones that our organization would be helping get that kid his rights restored at some point then, because that's a BS charge, I believe, or multiple BS charges for that matter. So, anyways, that's about it for today. Knowing how long we went here, I noticed now that we're about an hour and a half in now. So probably ate up most of the rest of the month that I had left on my 20 hours here, because I got about 2 when I came in here. So I don't know how much time we'll actually have left for the next episode or whatever. But if we have like 30 minutes or 20 minutes, or whatever it is, for like another episode on here, I'll do another episode tomorrow probably for another Grandstand. If I can get my Twitter account reinstated or not, or I'll let you guys know what the update is on that one. Like I said, if nothing else, if you're on Twitter right now, go follow Ohioans for Firearms Freedom. That was our original org on there. We'll be posting on there at some point again in the near future. And basically, that's pretty much what we're at for right now until Open either gets unsuspended or Elon Musk wants to stop being a cunt, is what it is, and using fucking bullshit algorithms to fuck us over there. So, anyway, but yeah, other than that, I will be back on Thursday for Buckshot Thursday. Probably do a different account for it then, since this account's going to be having its time limit by then. And we'll just do it on one of the other accounts then. So I'll have a different little, when I do my stop cam thing, it'll be a different thing than this actual moniker there. It'll be a different thing entirely on there for coloration and whatnot that I have on that one. So, but yeah, we'll be back probably tomorrow for a little small one or whatever. They'll just burn through the rest of whatever's up to 20 hours now. And then we'll be back for sure on Thursday for Buckshot Thursday episode 2, which the main topic of the day we'll be talking about Massachusetts gun control there. And then we'll be talking probably as well about the shit going on right now with the NDA and stuff like that and how we're going to get fucked by that now. So, yeah, needless to say, we'll do a panel discussion then. Obviously, I'll have Corey back on. Anybody else wants to come in, we'll drop the StreamYard link for y'all in the comment section if you want to jump on the panel and talk. But other than that, that's pretty much where we're at for the day. That particular episode will be around, for Buckshot Thursday, will be, I'm trying to think now. I'm physically trying to remember. I know I have an appointment this week, and I can't remember if it's Thursday or Friday. So it'll either be like later on Thursday or later on later that day or whatever then, depending. Because I'm trying to think. I think the last one I did around 3 or 3:30 my time. So I think maybe 4:30 somewhere in there. Maybe 5 o'clock. Eastern Standard Time will be this week's Buckshot Thursday, depending. Yeah, I think it's Fridays when I have my appointment, actually. Or no, is it Friday? No, I think it is Thursday. Okay, so yeah, no, never mind. It is Thursday. So, or wait, is it Thursday? Is it Friday? Jeez, I can't fucking remember. I think it is Thursday, actually. So it might be later even than that be the case then, because I know for a fact I have an appointment that day then. So if that is the day the appointment is, it might be up to like 6 or 7 even for that matter on Thursday afternoon then, / Thursday evening. So, but yeah, for those interested, I got to go to my rheumatologist for the first time now to get the arthritis dealt with in my hands and my arms and stuff like that. And I can hopefully have this guy or gal, whoever it is, write me some kind of prescription that'll actually do away with the constant joint pain in my fucking elbows right now for the last 3 weeks or so. Because even with the medication I took recently, it's still not doing anything for that inflammation and pain and stuff like that. So I don't know. I wish they could just prescribe like medical grade like CBD oil or something like that, or even like some CBD cream or something maybe. And I could just lather that shit up, is what it is, all around my arms and elbows and stuff. And it's just like, oh, thank God, some relief finally. Because that's really what I need, honestly. I just need something like that. Is what it would be, just to take away the pain naturally. But unfortunately, I can't afford the shit that's on the market right now. That's like little things like that for like a bunch of money. So it is what it is, man. But yeah, it'd be nice to not have to go to sleep in constant pain, wake up out of sleep a couple hours later in constant pain, try to fall back asleep in constant pain, and then eventually when your body is so tired you just pass out for several hours, but then you wake up and you're still in constant pain. Yeah. And that's what I've been suffering with for almost 20 years now. Since I was 18, I had that full body peeling on Christmas Eve of 2003. So, and for those wondering why I hate the medical industry and big pharma, that's why. For those wondering why I hate the politicians that are in their back pockets, that's why. So, for those wondering why I originally was going to become a civil servant in this country in my teens and early 20s, that was why. Because I wanted to change the laws, I wanted to change the rules, is what it was, dude, and be able to have longer times to lawsuit these companies and these fucking doctors, is what it was. Because unfortunately for medical malpractice, you only get a year, which is absolute bullshit. So, anyway. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will be back, like I said, probably tomorrow, depending how much time I got left on the StreamYard for this particular account. And then I'll do a short grandstand then probably, and then sometime Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, we will do the second episode of Buckshot Thursday where we're talking about Massachusetts anti-gun shit, and we'll talk about the shit in the NDA right now, and hopefully it doesn't pass by then. And yeah, other than that though, we'll be back for then. We'll also do another Freedom Friday this coming Friday. And I think it is 2 weeks from now, we will be doing the 4th anniversary Freedom Friday for the Gilroy Garlic Festival. We'll be doing a reading of names of the people that were lost that day for that piece of shit that committed that massacre. And then the week after that, which would be the 3rd, 4th of August, we will be doing the 4th anniversary readings of El Paso Massacre and Dayton Massacre, respectively, and discussing a few days after that my federal swatting for the 4th anniversary of that then, which will be, I believe, the 12th of August. So, anyway, that'll pretty much be our go-to for the next couple weeks. Here's what it is. And, yeah, in between times, we'll obviously do Buckshot Thursdays. We'll obviously do other things like that, but we'll lead up to that stuff in the next few weeks is what it'll be then. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Hope you all enjoyed this and have a good day. Later.